Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Most of the time I like to spit game, mind, body, and soul, daily discipline, topics that we can try to hash out, understand better, become stronger men, stronger people, better people. Sometimes I just like to tell stories from my life, so let's get into one of those times. I had 2 or 3 requests over the last week to tell more stories about Santa Cruz, California, the old days in Santa Cruz, old school stuff, east side, west side. Santa Cruz had a lot of gang activity in those days, lots of it. I mean, it was gang land. It may not be now. It was back then. So let's just get into another one of these Santa Cruz stories. I'll tell you about my surfing experience. I was never a surfer. And Santa Cruz is a surf town, and a lot of people are surfers. And I wasn't from Santa Cruz. I didn't grow up there, but I wanted to learn how to surf, and it's kind of part of that town. I mean, everywhere in California is about surfing, but Santa Cruz, there's certain spots, and Santa Cruz is one of these spots that's famous for surfing. The surf competitions that they have are there. They have Steamer's Lane, which is an incredibly famous little surf spot. They have a bunch of other ones that Santa Cruz people know. Pleasure Point, whatever. There's a bunch of little famous surf spots right around there. There's a lot of sharks around there too. I got a shirt in my office. I should have brought it out here. I should have worn it for this video, of a shark, a bloody shark with his teeth dripping with blood, and it says, "Come on in the water," or no, "Come on in, the water's fine," and it says, you know, Santa Cruz on the back. I lived down by the boardwalk, and the landscape of the town was, the boardwalk was beach flats from the boardwalk inland. And that was a Mexican barrio run by the Sureños, Southsiders. And they're the street soldiers for the Mexican mafia. There were 2 other Mexican gangs there, but they're all under that same umbrella. And they ran that place pretty strict. It's their turf, and other gangs would come down there once in a while because there were shootings down there. But that was Sureño turf, and people didn't fuck around. The west side was traditionally Norteño turf, and the West Siders is a surfer gang that had been around since the 50s, and that's something that California has that I don't think they have on the East Coast. I don't think they have surf gangs in Florida or in places in the East Coast, but they do out in California, and they've had them for generations. From Malibu and places all throughout the state. They'll have these little guys that they claim this turf, and they sell drugs, and they end up in prison for various reasons. And there's somewhat soft, low-level, unorganized gangs, but they're nonetheless, these are gangs, and they're tough guys, and there's a tradition to it, passed down from uncles and fathers and sons, and from generation to generation. When I first got to town, I was walking along West Cliff Drive. My best friend, who had moved out there a couple months after me, and both of our girlfriends, so the 4 of us are walking along West Cliff Drive, just enjoying it. It's a beautiful area. There's a bike path, and there's the cliffs that look over the water, and it's really beautiful. West Cliff Drive is a really great place, and if you're ever in Santa Cruz, definitely go check out that area. Right on West Cliff Drive, there used to be a house that was on the corner. I forget the intersection, that dead ends right into West Cliff Drive, because it just goes right up right next to the beach, can't go any further, but it was right on the corner there. And it was a West Side house, West Side gang. Basically just a surfer house. And they had all their surfboards out front, and their little beach cruisers and bicycles and their vehicles, and they would sit out there and party and drink, and various ages, from young guys to older guys. And the place would always be packed full of dudes, and they'd always be, any time of day that you walk by there, it would be a bunch of drunk surfers. They wouldn't really bother people walking by, but they would definitely mad dog certain people. If I walked by or even drove by, these guys would be checking me out pretty hardcore. I never paid any mind though. But we're walking kind of near that area, the four of us. And this surfer dude, blonde-haired surfer guy, I never forget him as long as I live. He had a big spot, brown spot, like a birthmark on the side of his face. That's the only real defining characteristic, because all these guys to me kind of look the same. Skinny, blonde-haired surfers. And he comes real close to us, almost runs us over. And you're supposed to share the path, and it's a big path. You had plenty of room to go by. It's like he did it on purpose to kind of prove a point to whatever, who knows what. Cause some trouble. So, me and my friend, who were both tough guys with reputations in the streets as criminals, we both had pretty big reputations. Him much bigger than me, but we both had reputations. We're like, what the fuck? You know, fuck you, motherfucker. And he stops. So, okay, so now we're gonna stomp this guy's face in. Now you're losing all your teeth, and we're gonna take you and throw you and your stupid little beach cruising bike, and we're gonna throw you in that fucking water. You're going over the cliff. That's what's happening now. Well, we realize we're with the chicks, and you can't really do that shit when you're with your girls. So it was just inappropriate, and it killed me. Killed me to give this guy a pass. And he's sitting there, he's scared, but because he's got his bicycle used as a shield to block both of us who were right up on this motherfucker, and he's trying to block us. But we let him go. And as he takes off, he could have just rode off. Instead, he rides off cursing, fuck you guys, and he gives this West Side bullshit that you see these guys doing, this bullshit. I assume he was going up to the house up there, to the little West Side house. I didn't follow him, we were walking the other direction. We get to give him a pass and to let him go killed me. It didn't bother my friend. And we just had to just suck it up. We're with the chicks. We don't want to ruin the day. Just, you know, want to make this a nice time. It's going to be a drag. Go to the beach, we get in a fight. She'd be like, you guys always do this. Can't we just have a good time for once? You know, whatever. But I was mad off that shit. I was stewing off that shit. So we found out where this guy lived. Oh, it was because I bought a bag of weed off this motherfucker, this guy Junior. And I was over this guy Junior's house on the West Side, surfer house. Another one of these little West Side gang houses, and they have surfboards everywhere, and it's packed full of surfers. They will just take over a whole house, a whole bunch of them, 10 of them. And in there watching TV with his feet up on the coffee table was this spot-faced motherfucker. The same guy. He didn't notice me, I noticed him as I was walking out, and I was just like, oh, you live here. Okay. And I'm putting two and two together, figuring out what's going on. The next night, I drive by with my van and point the house out to my buddy. So we pull over, we're a few houses down, we pull over a few houses down, the block is pretty crowded. Those blocks down there in those areas in the surf ghettos on the West Side are pretty tight, and a lot of people park out front, and we're 3 or 4 houses down, and we park the van in the only open spot. We walk back out front of their house just to kind of see if anybody's out front, if there's any lights on, if anybody's awake. And it's like 2, 3 in the morning, and it's dead. They got all their surfboards. There's like 8 surfboards out front. A line of wetsuits. They got their wetsuits all up on the porch drying. I guess they were out surfing earlier. So the best we figured we could do to be a thorn in these guys' sides, to show them that, you know, we were angry about what happened the other day, was to steal their surfboards. This was what we were going to do. Just kind of hatched a plan off the top of our heads right there. I grabbed 2 surfboards in one hand, 2 surfboards in the other, which is not an easy task. These are big surfboards. My brother piles a bunch of fucking wetsuits on top of me, and I got my little head popping out in fucking wetsuits and surfboards. He's got surfboards and wetsuits piled on him, and we're running down the street back towards my van in the middle of the street at 3 a.m. at night. I dropped one of the surfboards, picked it back up, and we're just like idiots. We finally get back to the van and we throw all that shit in there. And now we have more surfboards and wetsuits than we know what to do with. And I'm sure those guys were pissed. Our rivalry with these guys, with the entire crew of the West Siders, escalated. We ended up beating up, we stomped their leader, the president of their little crew. But that didn't stop anything. It just made things worse. It just went on and on and on. And it was ridiculous. You know, I mean, I'm 50 years old now. So those days were, I look back on them as being rather silly. We probably all could have been friends. We sold their surfboards to the East Siders, to the East Side gang. They were happy to buy some surfboards at a cheap rate and some wetsuits, and we told them who we got them from, and they loved it. They were like, awesome. Let them come try and take them. I dare them. We kept 2 surfboards and 2 wetsuits because, hey, we'd never been surfing before. So we went a little bit north. I don't know why. We drove just a little bit out of town up to Davenport Beach and went surfing. Took our girlfriends. Girlfriends are on the beach, on the towel, sunbathing in their bikinis, and we take the surfboards out. We're in our little wetsuits, and the Pacific Ocean is cold as shit. We paddle out. The water's choppy, but it looks like there's some waves kind of out there, so we paddle way the fuck out, further than it was comfortable for me. I know those are very deep waters, and we were way out there, way away from the shore. And we're trying to reach these waves, and it was difficult to try to get through that choppiness. And I'm not a real powerful surfer. I'd never done it before. I didn't really know what I was doing. We struggled. We kind of flailed around out there. This fucking naked dude, fat naked guy, comes walking up the beach, butt naked, dick hanging out, everything. He stops and talks to the chicks. We're in the water. You know, flopping around, trying to pretend to figure out how to surf, how to catch any wave. And this naked guy's sitting there and he's grabbing his fucking nuts and talking to our chicks, and we had to paddle back in. That was it. We were just like, okay, let's go back in and see what the fucking deal with this guy is. We get almost all the way back into shore and he goes scurrying off. Get back up to the tower, ask him what the fuck was that. Chicks were just like, oh, he's just some creep. This apparently is a nude beach. We didn't know. We take a look down the beach because it kind of went around the bend. The section we were at, little small section we were at, was pretty desolate. But right where, not far from us, kind of turned the corner, and sure enough, the whole beach is full of naked men, old men, all overweight, cruising, walking around, trying to look for dates, looking to fuck each other, whatever. It was a weird, gay, nude beach scene going on there. Who the fuck knew? The same guy that was creeping on our chicks was sitting there against the fucking cliff, because there's cliffs there, and he's tugging it. We look over, I'm like, oh my God. The first thing I thought was, I wish I had my boots on, because I'd go and kick his teeth in right there. I'd go and smash his face in. Instead, we were just like, you know what? Let's just take off. Well, long story short on that, I was talking to a surfer buddy of mine that I knew about my surf experience, and I said, yeah, I tried to go surfing yesterday, and he said, oh really, where'd you go? Did you go to the lane, or did you go to the point, or he's mentioning other places? I said, no, I went up to Davenport Beach. And he was like, well, why would you go up there? I said, I don't know. He says, you know, that's where all the elephant seals, like just north of there is where all the elephant seals are. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I was aware of that. And he's like, that's the largest great white shark feeding ground in all of California, if not North America. That's where all the great white sharks are, and they're probably all there this time of year. What you did was one of the most dangerous things you could have possibly done. It was dumb as shit. You're lucky you're alive. You're lucky you didn't at least get your foot bitten off by a shark. They think you're a seal when you're flopping around on one of them little small surfboards like that. Who the hell knew? We sold the surfboards, and that was my only experience ever surfing. Thanks for watching.